Today's programme looks at technology in the workplace. We visit a printing press and take a look at technology in the works and in the office. A couple who run their own theatre business buy furniture and equipment for their office. Comparing the old and the new. This member of staff remembers the old days. And a closer look at the structure of the company. And Troubleshooter goes high-tech in a big way. Welcome to the Invicta Press at Ashford, the home since the 1880s of Hedley Brothers. John Pitt is the commercial director.
In approximately 100 years, the printing industry has moved from this to this. At Hedley Brothers Limited, customers can have their magazines, journals or catalogues planned, printed, bound and dispatched in one fast operation. And this is all thanks to the technology that has become available in recent years. This is the pre-press department. Nigel is using a drum scanner to convert photographic prints or transparencies into digital files on computer. Here, Hugh is working on a page of a customer's magazine. The customer has prepared the page on computer and has transmitted it by modem or ISDN to Hedley Brothers. Hugh is now adding a picture to the page. This is the printing department. All the presses at Hedley Brothers are manufactured in Germany. This press can produce a complete section printed in 4 colours on both sides of the paper. Once the ink is dry, the printed work can be sent to the folding machines in the bindery department. The sections are fed into hoppers here and drop onto a conveyor belt. The sections of the magazine are gathered together and glued into the cover. The purpose of the conveyor belt is to allow time for the glue to dry. This is the dispatch hall. Here, completed magazines are packed individually in polythene envelopes with an address label. They are sorted into postcodes and placed into mail sacks for the post office. Hedley Brothers also sorts mail to meet German post office requirements. Production continues around the clock and frequently at the weekend as well. Our staff operate on a shift system. We have 2 daytime shifts, a night shift and weekend shifts. Staff are sometimes asked if they will work overtime to make up an extra shift.
Let's look at some of that again. First, focus on facts. How long has it taken to move from the old printing press to today's modern technology?
In approximately 100 years.
Approximately 100 years. Next, focus on language forms. Invicta Press offers a full service to its customers. Listen to John Pitt.
Customers can have their magazines, journals or catalogues planned, printed, bound and dispatched in one fast operation.
He uses have and a past participle. They can have their magazines planned. They can have their magazines printed. They can have them bound. They can have them dispatched in one fast operation. Here is a useful expression, around the clock.
Production continues around the clock and frequently at the weekend as well.
Production continues around the clock. And some vocabulary. First, the word shift.
Our staff operate on a shift system.
Our staff operate on a shift system.
We have 2 daytime shifts.
They have 2 daytime shifts.
A night shift.
A night shift.
And weekend shifts.
And weekend shifts. Next, overtime.
Staff are sometimes asked if they will work overtime to make up an extra shift.
Staff are sometimes asked to work overtime to make up an extra shift.
Ja, Eisfeld von der Firma Hedley Brothers in England. Guten Tag.
Ingrid Eisfeld has worked at Hedley Brothers as European sales representative since 1994.
Raum und Zeit, neue Dimensionen der Wissenschaft, sehr interessant. This is not exactly the paperless office, but the secretary-less office. Every member of staff has his or her own PC linked to a printer. We're all responsible for our own letters and paperwork. There are approximately 35 PCs in the office. We have customers all over Britain and we have an increasing volume of work in Europe. Anita has a database with details of all our customers. Computers are used to produce customers' invoices. All our personal computers are linked in a network, and there is also a mainframe network for handling magazine subscriptions. Our customers can communicate with us by email or by fax, or they can communicate with us in the traditional way by sending us their material by courier or by mail.
Let's take a closer look at some of that. First, facts. How many secretaries are there in the offices of Invicta Press?
Every member of staff has his or her own PC linked to a printer. We're all responsible for our own letters and paperwork.
There are no secretaries. And here is some wordplay. Here, less means without.
This is not exactly the paperless office, but the secretary-less office.
It isn't the paperless office, but it is the secretary-less office. And finally, some vocabulary. As well as email and fax, customers can use more traditional ways of communicating with Hedley Brothers.
They can communicate with us in the traditional way by sending us their material by courier or by mail.
They can send their material by courier or by mail. Hadrian and Susanna Garrard have a theatre company called The Naked Pony. With the help of their baby Ella, they run the company from home. They want to improve their office with some new furniture and new office equipment, including a new PC.
We want to use it to produce theatre programmes, amongst other things, and posters. So we're looking for something which will do graphics. We also want a colour printer.
Desks and filing cabinets, ask if they do them.
Do you stock office furniture? Desks and filing cabinets? Fine. OK, we'll come along this afternoon. Thanks.
If you'd like to come this way, there's plenty to choose from. We've got desks, chairs, filing cabinets, cupboards, bookcases.
Office furniture is the first requirement.
This one has 4 drawers and space for hanging files.
This one's quite good, don't you think? There's room for everything.
It's too big, isn't it? We don't need one as big as that, do we? How about that smaller one?
That would be fine. Now, how about a desk? This would fit, wouldn't it?
This one has a drawer which can be used as a filing cabinet.
It's got this drawer for all your bits and pieces. Paper clips, drawing pins, hole punch, stapler.
Great.
And there's room for stationery here. Headed notepaper, envelopes, compliment slips. Very neat. How about a swivel chair as well?
Let's focus in on some of that. First, vocabulary. Equipment and furniture are both uncountable nouns. They don't have a plural form and you don't use numbers with them.
Do you stock office furniture?
Next, what items of furniture do they want? First, a filing cabinet.
This one has 4 drawers and space for hanging files.
4 drawers and space for hanging files. Now, language forms. Question tags are not always used as questions. It depends on the intonation. Listen to Hadrian.
It's too big, isn't it?
Here he feels sure. It's too big, isn't it? But listen to him now.
We don't need one as big as that, do we?
We don't need one as big as that, do we? Here he is a little uncertain. He's asking her opinion. Next, wordplay. She likes this drawer.
It's got this drawer for all your bits and pieces.
It's got this drawer for all your bits and pieces. Or she could say,
It's got this drawer for all your odds and ends.
for all your odds and ends. And now, some vocabulary. The names for some of the odds and ends.
Paper clips, drawing pins, hole punch, stapler.
Paper clips, drawing pins, hole punch, stapler.
And there's room for stationery here. Headed notepaper, envelopes, compliment slips.
And stationery. That's another uncountable noun. It includes headed notepaper, envelopes, compliment slips. Next, a look at computers.
Perhaps you'd like to come and look at the computers next. I'll show you what the software can do. If you'd like to take a seat. Perhaps you'd like to remind me what you'd like to do with your computer.
Well, basically, there are 2 main purposes, office work and publicity. For the office work, we want a simple word processing facility for writing letters, memos, and so on. And we also want a spreadsheet facility for keeping our accounts.
That's no problem. This spreadsheet package can actually monitor your accounts and cash flow forecasts.
And then there's the question of publicity. As a theatre company, whenever we put on a new production, we have to produce posters and programmes.
We've tried several printers, but whichever way we do it, it's always expensive.
And so we want to do it ourselves.
Again, no problems. With this machine, you can also use this software package. You've got a selection of clip art pictures, and you can import them. And if you want to create your own design, you can use the paint feature, which is part of the same package. And then you can print it out.
Let's take a close-up on some of that. A sales assistant must speak politely to her customers, listen to the form of words with perhaps.
Perhaps you'd like to come and look at the computers next.
Perhaps you'd like to come and look at the computers next.
Perhaps you'd like to remind me what you'd like to do with your computer.
Perhaps you'd like to remind me. And some more on language forms. Whenever and whichever.
Whenever we put on a new production, we have to produce posters and programmes.
Whenever we put on a new production,
But whichever way we do it, it's always expensive.
whichever way we do it. Now, vocabulary. What do they want from their computer?
For the office work, we want a simple word processing facility.
A simple word processing facility.
We also want a spreadsheet facility for keeping our accounts.
A spreadsheet facility for keeping their accounts.
You've got a selection of clip art pictures and you can import them.
A selection of clip art pictures. You can import them. Ted Roffey has worked at Hedley Brothers for 42 years, and he has seen great changes in the printing industry. His first job, at the age of 15, was feeding paper to the printing presses, doing exactly the same job as this machine. But it was very different 42 years ago.
The paper was on your right-hand side. You took the sheet off into the platen. The platen would go up and print and come back again. As it came back, you took the sheet out with the left hand and replaced it with another sheet from the right hand, and so on.
Quite soon, Ted moved from the machine room to learn the traditional skills of the compositor.
After 18 months or so, an apprenticeship came up in the composing department, and I moved away from the messy, what we thought was the messy side of the industry, into the composing department.
The traditional methods of the printing trade were passed on to the young apprentices by the older men, as they had been for generations. This was the age of hot metal. John Pitt explains.
It was called hot metal because that was what it was. The machinery created type out of hot lead. So the work in that environment was very smelly, very hot, very noisy, and involved a certain amount of danger. Those such as Ted, who started in the hot metal era, have seen their work switch from composition using hot metal to film planning work, and from there into computer page makeup.
Nowadays, Ted composes pages with a computer and its powerful word processor.
When I came into the trade and first started learning the system, that it was important that you were good at English. You understood English and you could spell. Nowadays, the system I've got now, we've got what we call a spell checker, whereby the job that I've set, I run it through a spell checker system and it will pick out 95% of the words which I've typed in incorrectly. Now, I do the whole process that perhaps 3 or 4 men did. I set the type, I make it into pages, I import pictures into it, I import colour pictures into it. Now, going back a few years, that would have meant a compositor, a typesetter, somebody to cast the type, somebody to make the pages up, and so on and so on.
Machines that can do the work of 4 men can create unemployment. So has redundancy been a problem at Hedley Brothers?
Nobody was ever made redundant when new technology came in. Everybody was always catered for, and natural wastage took place. When people retired, they were not replaced. Nobody was put out of work. And anybody who wanted to be retrained could be retrained wherever they wanted to.
Hedley Brothers has become more efficient and more productive. But have all these changes been good for the workforce?
Change for me has meant coming to work, dressed in reasonably clean clothes, to work in a clean environment, on work which I feel now is certainly far more rewarding than what it was many years ago. It's far more interesting.
Two brothers, Herbert Hedley and Burgess Hedley, founded the firm in 1881. Burgess's son-in-law, Leonard Pitt, took over the management in 1942. Today, the chairman of the company is H.C. Pitt. Roger Pitt is the managing director. John Pitt is the commercial director. He is responsible for maintaining the company's quality control system. Philip Seed is the office manager. He is responsible for a team of production controllers. Each department has its manager. Andy Owden is the dispatch manager. His job is to ensure that all work is dispatched and delivered safely and on time to the customers. Each shift has its supervisor or overseer. Steve Brind is a pre-press supervisor or overseer. He ensures that work is produced accurately and on time by the team on his shift. Every company will organise its management structure a little differently according to its own specific conditions. This is the way it works at Hedley Brothers to ensure smooth and efficient production.
There we are. I've just finished another report for my latest client. Another satisfied customer. And this is the bit I enjoy best. Sending the bill. Put it in an envelope and put on a stamp. And I'll pop that in the post later on. You know, it's very useful having a mobile office. For one thing, there's no rent to pay. But I'm getting the feeling that some of my equipment is a little out of date. So I am going to update myself. And I'm afraid this old typewriter's going to have to go. Come on. So, it's goodbye to you, my old friend. Good morning.
Can I help you?
My name is Troubleshooter, and I've come to update my office equipment.
Very well. Follow me, sir.
I want the very latest state-of-the-art office equipment. But it's got to be small, very small. My office is very small and mobile.
Allow me to suggest a laptop computer, sir.
Laptop?
It's called a laptop because it goes on the lap.
On the lap.
Very handy for the train or aeroplane, sir.
Just the job. Very neat.
It's powered by battery. There's a small switch here and a screen here.
I think I can work it out for myself, all right? I'm not stupid. I take it there are instructions provided.
Ah, of course. One manual, sir.
Oh, I see. And do you have any of those mini faxes they all talk about?
Allow me to recommend one of these, sir.
Oh, that's very neat, isn't it? Lovely. Does this run on batteries as well?
Yes, of course.
Excellent. Well, I'll take 2. But where does the paper go?
There's no paper in these machines, sir. You'll need a separate printer for both of them.
Oh, well, that's a pity. I was rather hoping for a paperless office. That is the most modern concept, isn't it? A paperless office?
Oh, even the best establishments need hard copy these days, sir.
Right.
Now, is there anything else sir requires?
Well, I might be requiring a few little bits and pieces.
Very good.
I am going to have the best office in the world. In the universe. Cartridges, toners, ribbons, joysticks, floppies, more floppies, floppy boxes. I'm going to be the UK's business success story. I'm hardly spending any money, am I? Or am I? There we are. That's the lot. I will be requiring a VAT receipt for my accounts.
But, sir. Right, that's £36,343.20, including VAT. We will, of course, throw in a free extension lead.
A free extension lead?
Yes.
And what would I be wanting with an extension lead?
To plug into the power, of course, sir.
Do I need electricity?
Yes, sir.
I'm afraid I don't have any electricity in my office. I'm afraid I'll have to think about it. So, thank you very much for your time and attention. Good afternoon. Well, it's hello again, old friend. Just think how much money I've saved today.
That's all for today's programme. You will find texts, exercises and special vocabulary in your student's book. Next week, we'll be looking at the world of banking. Goodbye till then.